which is an
Right.
interesting one.
Wow, yeah. Welcome to Toast and Jams, the show where we like to cheers to creativity and chat to the rhythm of a song from our formative years. And welcome Harry Yeff, also known as Reeps One, as I like to know you from back in the day. You are an artist and director working in multidisciplinary avenues, let's say. How would you describe yourself these days?
Yeah, so I'm sure that we'll talk about it, but
Yeah.
the last few years, I founded a studio called R100 Studios. It basically came out of my practice starting in music as a vocalist, but really the way that I work with technology. And it might sound strange, but this idea of pairing art and technology just brings like so many opportunities. So with R100 Studios, we basically do exhibitions and experiences all over the world, and like have worked with United Nations, Max Planck Institute, and a whole bunch of other blah blah individuals. But the really exciting thing is that I get to work with like academics, engineers, visual artists, directors, creative directors, spatial audio, machine learning, AI, generative systems. Like it's really about what is going to be in the world 3 years from now, and how can we make art with it today.
Yeah, sick. Okay, sounds amazing.
Yeah.
We ask our guests to bring in a drink that either they're into, feeling at the moment, or holds some kind of meaning or memory. So what did you bring in today for us?
I mean, this might surprise people, but it's a drink that I don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
But Lucozade Orange was a very founding piece of my existence, just because growing up-
Original, Lucozade original.
specifically original.
Yeah.
Growing up on a council estate in East London, my wonderful father, who I absolutely adore and is a genius in many ways, sent me off to school drinking this. And I don't think that was the best decision, but it became a bit of like an heirloom in the family. So
Yeah.
it has many fond memories, and maybe the cause of my neurodivergence. Who knows? But,
Right, yeah.
but yeah, it's important to me.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, let's cheers to that. And cheers to your dad
Thank you.
as well. I've not had this again, since I was
Just
a
take
kid.
a sip. Don't drink any more than that, because you'll be bouncing off the walls, basically.
I'll probably get into it. That's what happens with me. All these, like, people bring on some crazy drinks, and first I won't like it, and then it'll be finished soon.
If you need to get something done,
It looks evil, doesn't it?
in 10 minutes, it's good.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you might be jeering.
I'm just going to pretend it's a Negroni for now.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Good to see you. The taste of being ill as a kid.
Exactly.
In fact, I reference that feeling of being ill so strongly with that taste that I don't like it now. Do you know what I mean? Like flu and temperature and that kind of thing, and that's the flavour of that. That's the memory.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah. So what's been going on in the last, I don't know.
15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think I've gone through many worlds. I've been very lucky, but the center has always been voice, and
Yeah.
it's not just traditional singing. I was very lucky to be able to sort of, like, voice basically saved me, like the way I performed with my voice,
Yeah.
and just like going into such a bizarre scene as beatboxing. It took me all around the world. But that has led to many other opportunities. I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll talk about it, but as I matured as like an artist and as a professional, I took that very specialist thing and expanded it across quite a few different industries and
Yeah.
ideas. So now I just love researching and collaborating through the lens of voice, whether it's with academics, with other artists, with technology. So really, if I had to summarize, it's been a complete obsession and relentless exploration of everything that can connect to that.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, before we get into that, let's rewind a bit and start off with your tune of choice, which was
Zatmadar, which is by Venetian
I'm
Snares.
glad you said it because I
Yeah.
wasn't sure how to pronounce it. It was a great choice. 2005.
hmm
So you were a teenager at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
What's
So,
happening in your life at 2005?
so the memory I have is being in the tower block that I grew up and in the kitchen, searching. It wasn't 2005 that I heard it. It was a few years later, but like very early
Yeah.
YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I think there was always a natural interest to how sound and vision can sort of work together.
Right.
And I I've always just loved new things. If I found something that it sort of felt like I've not quite seen something like that before, I've not quite heard something like that before, or someone
Mm,
says something that
yeah.
inspires me, it just made me feel alive. It made me feel like there was possibility. And many teachers and sometimes people around you would say something like everything's been done. So when I heard that tune, which was kind of an introduction into the more like complex like breakcore, and some people
Mm,
call it IDM, electronic or experimental. Um, yeah, Venetian Snares has been sort of a pioneer in that, and this sampling of classical music with really sort of just constantly varying percussion. And it was one of those moments where it just felt like the inside of my head was
mm.
externalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get so much relief when I feel that
Yeah.
because
So really good art does that for you, right? You know.
yeah, you feel a bit less alone, and you
Yeah.
feel I just felt like a connection to that, and it inspired me massively. And I'd been sort of beatboxing for a little while in London electronic music, and tunes like that were like huge influences on me, which was a differentiator. So I have a real emotional connection to that tune,
What,
and
what's
also the video has visuals as well, which I
yeah?
think is really interesting.
What really struck me about that song choice, and I'm not, I wonder if you're aware of it, or you probably are, but there's a real strong, um, I would say almost not even just collaboration, but like conflict between analog and kind of analog instruments and acoustic instruments, and then
Mm.
the real mad drum programming, and they are working together, but there is a little bit of a conflict between old and new, like digi and analog. And is that something that you noticed in that tune as well?
Yeah, and it's something that I apply all the time to this day.
Mm,
Is opposites coming together tend to create novelty, and
yeah,
like whether it's new and old, like spiritual and like digital. And I personally I love that. I
yeah,
think that's where a lot of alchemy happens, and these kinds of mutations of styles where and it's you can't just throw things together. Like something having an impact or having that reaction in me, I'm sure is massively down to who I am as a person. Not everyone's gonna like love that tune,
no,
but I think it was that combination of elements,
yeah,
and the fact that it's not in 4/4, all
yeah.
these kinds of
It
elements.
just makes you sit up and listen and go, huh?
Mm,
What's happening? What's going on there?
and
Makes
it's
you ask questions.
cinematic.
Yes, totally.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
certain tunes would also trigger like visuals in my mind,
Mm,
and not everything would do that. But when I started listening to something and I started seeing this narrative or this story, that would mm, connect to me massively. So that's the yeah one of many artists that have like sort of influenced my musical style.
yeah. Okay. So you said it was a couple of years later that you might have heard that on YouTube. What was the kind of what was your creative life looking like at that time? Were
Uh,
you had you started drawing?
I was drawing was first because
Yeah.
my father was a visual artist,
Okay.
and he said that like apparently the first time that I got my hands on some crayons, he stopped looking and I'd like literally drawn like all over the walls,
Yeah.
which was one of his like stories that he tell all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe trying to be like my dad, but it was a kind of a calming thing for me, and so I was drawing all the time. That was really what I thought was gonna be everything forever, I think, was
Mm,
visual art,
right.
because it was, accessible to me.
Yeah.
Like, having instruments or the idea of any kind of career at that time was non-existent. Like, my mental attitude, what I was conditioned is, I live where I live,
Which
Even
was where were you?
I was in between Chingford and Selwyn Estate, which
Okay.
is like it's Walthamstow and Chingford
Yeah.
and Selwyn, um, which is East London, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just, I think like it was all coping, really. Like I think school didn't make sense to me until quite a lot later. Um, I hated being bored. I mean, who likes being bored? But I had a visceral reaction
Mm.
to that as a kid, and I really struggled with it. I think
Did
so.
it come out in like what would people would call bad behavior, or was
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think the reason I sought out certain friends,
Mm.
did certain things, or would stay up until 4 a.m. when I had school,
Yeah.
was because I was constantly looking for some kind of relief, some sense of like place,
Stimulation, I guess. Yeah.
stimulation, which has been such a massive part of my maturing, hopefully, journey is
Mhm.
understanding that more because
Mm.
that is such a difficult thing as a neurodivergent person or wherever anyone might think of that whole kind of space. So all these different things, like I realized that for a long time, my creative process and the way that I've become absolutely relentless in making art
Mm.
is because from very early on, it was the only thing that made me feel home, and it made me feel a sense of place. Because when I did everything else, almost stuff didn't feel quite right, or couldn't follow other people's structures,
Yeah.
in the same way, and I just look around and everyone else is doing this. Like,
Mm.
what's wrong with me?
Yeah, right.
So when I found certain artistic practices or artists that inspired me, I would get this feeling of like, oh, like maybe it's okay, or I have to go further in this to make something happen and actually have a little bit of control on this thing called life,
Yeah.
which has healthy and unhealthy
Yeah.
aspects to that.
That's such a big thing about society is how society creates this environment that makes individuals think like turn on themselves and think what's wrong with me when actually it's not really the individual, it's the society itself that is the problem, you know. So yeah, that's a shame that it makes you feel that way, and hopefully like other young people, that's what like communicating stories like this is important, I think, because you know, just to there might be someone listening that's going through the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I presume everyone listening doesn't know what I do, especially not in the bigger picture. But the one thing that is really important is that the creative act can be a healing process, and it's not. Sometimes you think I'm doing this to be perceived, or I'm making this, or I
Mm,
started doing this to impress someone. But I think if you really go dig a little bit deeper into every person's story, there was probably a point that you started doing something because it felt good, or there was actually a kind of nervous system reaction to that you receive something internally, and for some people that really is a medicine.
yeah,
And can you keep that in your life in a healthy way? And everyone is so different. Like we're spread as creatives, and we're defined by industries, but under that is just a vast sort of mesh of unique human beings that are just looking to be stimulated and content.
yeah.
um and that's a really difficult thing to balance, is industry and that side of
Mm,
wanting to create, because I think the first one is a little bit more pure and honest, and we all
mm.
kind of get entered into this machine of like having to manifest, which I think is amazing, but it's very hard.
Yeah, and you could replace the word industry with capitalism in a way, and like 'cause, you know, as soon as you put the stress on anything for it to make money or produce infinitely, then there's a problem, right? But that's another conversation. so yeah, so drawing first, but funnily enough, it was I didn't. It was the other way around for me with my relationship with you.
Mm.
It was always your performance, your vocal performances, let's say, beatboxing first. And then when I found out you did draw, because then you went to enter Secret Wars, I was like, oh shit, okay, you're pretty good at that too. But so when did like your vocal performance stuff start manifesting? Was that in your teens?
Yeah, so 14 is when I started. I mostly started because a friend of mine that I grew up with. Um, Basically, there was two things. Like the first was I started to hear like early forms, like early aspects of grime.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit later, like very very early, like dubstep.
Hmm.
Um, and the sort of like jungle drum and bass. So I was really inspired by all that, but I couldn't afford a laptop. I
Mm.
didn't have a way of having the output. And this is going to sound so weird to everyone. This like this sort of reason I started. So it was that set of cultures, plus in school I did start learning to play certain instruments. So I was learning to play the drums, and because we couldn't afford to take anything home because you had to put a deposit and hire,
Right. Yeah.
I basically was practicing in the school, but I wanted to keep practicing, so I started speaking
Sick.
the drums.
Yeah.
So it
It's the
was the
best
combination of the
foundation,
two.
man. Drums is
Mm.
the best foundation for musicians, I think. Like, I think every musician should learn how to play drums first, and then move on from there. So yeah, so drumming, that makes complete sense. Makes complete sense.
Well, it was drumming plus being around London electronic music, and then just not being able to play the drums, like physically, like not having it with me.
Yeah.
And the big eureka moment is I had a small exam, and I realized that I didn't have time to go into school. It was the weekend, so I practiced with my voice, and when I went in, I could play it on the drums. And I
Mm.
realized, oh, in just the voice, there's something there.
Yeah.
So that started the journey. But then just really being influenced by electronic music and channeling that through my voice, I was like, oh my god, I can make music like whenever I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
lose it. I used to
Yeah.
leave things behind all the time.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
with you. Yeah.
which is and people don't think of it that way, but it's actually like voice is the oldest, most profound musical instrument outside of speaking, like in the world. It defines cultures, it connects people, um and sound making, like forgetting YouTube and things like that, like sound making is as old as human beings themselves. So there's
Mm.
actually, I saw it at a surface level, but then there
Mm.
was all these like quite meditative, to control my voice, to master, try and improve on it, to find new sounds. It gave me that thing I spoke about at the beginning. I felt so much sense of place in
Yeah.
finding something that had some novelty and some creative openness.
Mm. Right. Yeah. For sure. For sure. And do you think like that there was before language, we were using our voices creatively? We don't know how long for, right? For a pretty long time. Like,
Quite a while.
when was language first introduced? Like there must have just been our ability to make a kind of a rich, diverse palette of sounds
Mm.
must have been quite wide.
I mean, it's a dear friend of mine, a woman called Sophie Scott, who's a neurologist at UCL.
Mm.
She talks a lot about this, just through some more of the recent like work that we've done. We're a collaborator, and she talks about just the evolution of the tongue and the palate,
Yeah.
and how, like, you're talking. I'm not going to quote an exact amount. It's a long time, but moving from sounds that are sort of more abstractions, and even things like crying,
Yeah. Right.
laughing, are social like sounds. Those
Yeah.
are like ritualistic, like people
Yeah.
laughing together. You still see it now. If
Cheering, screaming,
that's
like.
a very old thing,
Mm.
and it's the transition from just like grunts to social sort of connections and sound making, till eventually you get this thing that you might call like music or like language. But
Mm.
I when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, isn't that just amazing?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
isn't that just this thing that we use every day that is our voice?
Yeah.
We never think of how much of a gift that is, and like to be able to speak and to be able to share is just, I feel a lot of gratitude for that. But yeah, so you're right. There, it's a hell of a journey, and it's just interesting when you look into that outside of just like what we say or what we sing or what we perform.
When you see these guys that perform parkour or anything that's kind of like exceptional, we consider exceptional with our bodies, right? It's like anyone, not anyone, but like if you want to, you can learn how to do that. And everybody has the ability to do that. And it's kind of a similar thing with the voice. It's like you've just honed it, right? And you've kind of practiced and explored. But really everyone can do, everyone's got the ability.
There's I mean, sorry, you've like opened up the can of worms here now, but like just for everyone watching, basically, human voice is like my whole thing. It's my whole life.
Yeah.
Um, but the simple thing that people can think about if you're a musician or if you're a vocalist, but also just in like for anyone else in your day-to-day life,
Yeah.
the really important thing to think about, I can't believe you're taking another sip, that's amazing, is just outside of the words that we say, we forget that the voice is also the body, and we
Mm,
stretch our bodies all the
right.
time.
Yeah, there you
Like
go.
it's such an established idea that if you don't use your range of motion, you might lose some range of motion,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So the voice is interesting because not using it's not that like immediately not using your voice, you're not going to be able to speak, but there's this the range of your voice
Mm,
also affects the range of your mind.
mm,
And if someone is always talking like this all the time,
yeah,
all of their relationships, all of their
exactly.
partnerships, would you want me to be on this podcast if I just spoke like this
Exactly.
every single day? So,
Yeah.
so just that silly
Yeah,
example, it shows that it's interesting to think about the range of your voice and just
totally.
screaming and shouting, pushing yourself. There's a lot of really interesting ideas that you're actually you're stretching your nervous system, your comfort. Like some people can't scream. And I think that is there's a reflection there. So stretching the voice is such a wonderful thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, and also you quite often hear in therapy and other pursuits like that, that once someone does stretch their voice, they will release emotions like either happiness or sadness or something that's been contained, you know. Yeah,
Mm.
it's mad. It's mad. It's a beautiful thing. So going back to beatboxing just quickly, teenager times, but so leaving school behind, beatboxing is a regular practice. How did you get into performing and also eventually the beatbox championships?
Yeah.
Which is
So
kind of when you popped up on my radar. Yeah,
yeah. So just casually
2009, I
summing up
guess.
my whole early life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had this just by chance obsession. Like I fell in love with it. Like by no means is beatboxing a job or an industry in a traditional sense. Like there was no
No.
one ever coming to me saying, "What a great accolade that is for your
Yeah.
future prospects."
Yeah.
Is like being like an absolute machine of a beatboxer.
Yeah.
Um, but the thing that I did see was the reaction that the way it drew energy in towards me, the fact that I could through it didn't start like that, like for the like the championships and things like that. I basically had that kind of relief that I mentioned. Like when I did it, it felt
Yeah.
there was something. I was like, there's something here, and uh,
What was the first live show, for example? Let's talk about like how you found yourself on the first stage and the feeling of that.
so this is I really want to find her, but to anyone that knows any teachers or someone listening that is a teacher, the impact that they have on kids
Yes.
is
Good or bad, unfortunately.
positive and negative, but oh my
Yeah.
god, what a responsibility.
Yeah.
So there was a substitute teacher who I can't remember her name in a English class, and basically there was just a small activity that we did, like a group session
Yeah.
where there was something, and it made sense for me to add some music. So I started to perform a little bit for that, and she was just like, that is amazing, Harry. You should do it in assembly."
Okay, nice.
So what ended up happening is
How old are you at this point? Sorry.
14.
Okay,
So I
cool.
did that. I did it in front of my whole year, and then every single head of year
Wow.
asked me to do it for every other thing.
Wow.
So then,
Okay.
like this,
Snowball.
the
Yeah.
entire school knew.
Shit, man.
So
You went from you had some fame at school. Must have happened pretty quickly.
well, it's the main. It's not like that's a huge accolade. It was
No,
just
no,
it was
but
more to
for a
go
14-year-old
from.
old boy, man, that's a big deal, you know?
And for it to be this inward thing that I'm searching, I don't know where to put it, and then to
Yeah.
get all of this external validation, um, was a push, right?
Mm.
And everyone was encouraging. But then what was amazing is because people wanted to hear it and they were asking me, then I had basically this iterative engine of working on things because I would try stuff out, I'd do things, I'd see different reactions, and then my friends got involved and they're like, oh, you could try this and you can do that.
Playground stuff and like
And the people that were closest to me at that time,
ciphers.
well,
You know?
everything
Yeah.
was a massive like training engine.
Yeah.
And a really important thing for your friends in your creative practice is if they're really true friends, they will give you a harder time than anyone else.
Yeah. for sure.
So when they were like, "Wow, that's new. Okay, actually, wow, that's an improvement. That's a level up." It
Mm.
went from this abstract thing that I'm doing myself to then all of a sudden it was a connecting force, and that just continued. So when I left school, performed anywhere I could. So I was
Mm.
doing like sort of ciphers for like grime ciphers. I was at the YMCA at some like random thing. I
Yeah.
got picked up by a few gospel churches
Oh,
that saw me at
wow.
the
I'd
YMCA.
love to see that now.
Yeah, and they brought me in
Yeah, sick.
let's say I wasn't necessarily like the demographic,
Yeah, of
but they were
course.
so
Yeah.
welcoming,
Yeah.
and so I just had this like complete non-ego, relentless, like I'm just gonna keep going and trying. I went to the most obscure, strange gigs,
Yeah.
and it just grew and grew and grew. And then eventually, I just appeared at the UK championships, and then I just started winning a lot of competitions, and I became double national champion. Um,
I don't think anyone's done that since, have they?
yeah, no,
Has it
there
not in
has
a
been
row?
multiple
Okay,
champions.
right,
Yeah,
right.
so
At the
but
time, I don't think it had to happen that way.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
like a massive like moment for me. But it was where it took me. I ended up being one of the top ranked in the world, and that led to the first few sort of viral like videos. So
Mm.
that lineage from a school, that if I didn't do that school performance,
Yeah.
there is a chance that all of those things, whether you think that's an achievement or not, it really might not have happened. And I think that's such an important lesson in trying small moments.
Mm.
That little moment when you're like, "Oh, I'm not very good. I shouldn't get on stage," or "I'm not very good. I shouldn't
Yeah.
submit this like idea, or I shouldn't talk about this idea."
Yeah.
You could be robbing yourself of just the choice to explore something. Doesn't mean you always have to do these things. But I
Well, it's like
remember,
remaining open to opportunity and chance instead of closing the doors, basically, isn't it? You know?
yeah, just your hobbies and the things you're passionate about. We get conditioned to think that they're completely separate and deviations from like life.
Yeah.
And I understand that parents and things might say that, but it really is those doing. It's not just doing things that you're scared of. It's sometimes doing what you do in an environment that you never think it would be appropriate or the right place,
Yeah, right.
and that creates you're not smarter than the universe. Like your fear and your anxiety
Mm.
cannot factor in who might be in the room, who might enjoy something. So having this like relationship with constant micro failure where
Yes.
you're just sharing and doing things. I was very good at that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I just kept sharing, um, and it allowed me to constantly experience this simple thing where I thought I had a limitation. Oh no, surely this won't make sense. And it was by pushing myself in that moment would come where people would have a new reaction. And when I arrived on the international battle scene, no one had heard dubstep before, like globally, like people in the
Mm.
Philippines that were watching.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The first time they heard dubstep was me in 2009 doing like
Okay.
TC Where's My Money.
Yeah, that's nice to be able to bring that to people through beatboxing, which is crazy.
Yeah, and that's why all of those factors, all those things together, and the strangeness of my style, like,
Yeah.
was what allowed me to have a certain kind of influence.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
uh,
It was your bass lines that my ears pricked up with. I was just like, "Huh? Hold on a minute." You know, it was the way you were able to translate a bass line through a mic down a system I hadn't heard before.
mm,
And I don't know if I still I mean, yeah, it's probably a bit more, around now, but it wasn't then at all. Wasn't then at
no,
all.
not it's just that those harder drops and those moments and being with you guys and like
Yeah, yeah.
those are really like special memories. But the way people just lose their mind. But the scene, and it's amazing the way the culture has grown. Like the
Yeah.
technical abilities, the international nature of it, the new talents, the people that I've like very privileged to have kind of
Who's
encouraged.
who's on your list at the moment of, like, ones to watch, would you say?
I mean, then they're very much watched, you could say now,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
an amazing London UK talent, sorry, not London UK talent, D'Lo, who has a lot of online fame and became, I think, the strongest battler in the world.
Yeah.
And it's just like he has this similar nature of like he'll just try things and he's very like clear on what he wants to do.
Mm.
From Vietnam is a massive collaborator of mine. Is Trong Bao, who's a Vietnamese super complex style, like
Yeah.
alien like
Wow.
complexity.
Yeah,
But then you get figures like Wing from Korea,
yeah.
who amazing like at composing and writing. So can sometimes it can appear that his ideas are like simple because they can have a lot of space, but
Yeah.
there's so much detail and confidence in like what he does. So every country, every region really does have a very different set of superpowers,
Mm.
and everybody learns from each other. And I think that's like one of the original draws is I've had friends in the beatbox world before I could talk to them in their language.
Mm.
People that are French, Bulgarian.
Yeah.
We just communicated through sounds.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It was one of my first viral clips, but like a friend of mine, Skiller, who became world champion.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So he basically uh would like do a little pattern, and I'd be like, and he'd be like, and
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
this sort of like strange thing. And then eventually he learned to speak English. Sadly, I don't speak Bulgarian.
Yeah.
Terrible, but that's just interesting. It's just a
Yeah.
new experience.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the new ways of creating, and I'm very grateful for all of that.
Are there any sounds, noises that are new to you that you've been using or working on that you can demonstrate for us today?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're new to me, and there's so many amazing like just innovations like out there. But a few that I really like is um, sometimes when people think of harmonic sort of singing, there's traditional like techniques like tooth and throat singing, but there's like one that came out of the brass playing in the 60s, which is called
Okay.
multiphonics,
Yes.
where you basically make two tones with one with your pressure of your lip and the other with the voice. Which is an
Right.
interesting one.
Wow, yeah.
And then another one is like it's like called like a skull resonance. So
Okay.
I don't know how much this will come up on the microphone, but basically what I'm doing is I will sing a note
Mm.
and the bones in my head will resonate. But then when I place my tongue on the roof of my mouth, it will basically reroute the resonance, so it changes like almost like a resonant
Okay.
yodel. So it sounds like this.
Wow.
Um, and then just finally, like I guess to reference Venetian snares, like the
Yeah.
ability to create machine like percussion and like take reference from electronic music is just like absolutely huge in the scene. But that's like it's very sort of special to me.
Thank you. Cheers, Harry. Smashed it.
Cool.
When did you reach, like, I wouldn't say a limit, but like, like a lobster sheds its skin when it grows a bit too big for it. At what point with beatboxing did you feel creatively like you want to step outside of the realms of that and explore different creative
Yeah.
outputs?
So I decided to step away from battling, which many of my friends didn't understand. I reach a kind of benchmark where I've been a part of a number of events and reached 100 million views on YouTube. And then a couple of years later, I actually wanted to move away from touring. Like I realized that if you're a touring musician, the impact on your like personal life,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of romanticize that in your teens and early 20s, but you have to be really careful with how you get the balance between,
Totally,
which
yeah.
I think you'd
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
So when there was a few like big flashy things that like made me feel like this is the time, but my team at the time, my agents and my fans, they all like just kicked off at me really
Fucking hell.
about stepping away. I got
Yeah.
hundreds of messages, and I
Wow.
still sometimes get messages from fans like, when are you going to come back and do that thing, and like
Yeah.
we miss you, or just like, oh, you're selfish for
Wow.
yeah, I cannot sort of there's so much parasocial
I mean, it's
strangeness.
nice that they like what you did, but also that's an older you. It's like,
Well, it's just artists are humans too.
exactly, yeah.
Um,
Humans change,
yeah.
hopefully.
But
You know.
I took that step and expected my whole life to sort of end, basically. But
Okay,
it
yeah.
felt like that was what needed to happen.
You're
And
cleaning the slate though, by the sounds of it.
yeah, and I like fresh starts, and
Mm,
just sometimes diving into the unknown it creates new possibility, and it's the best thing that you can do,
yeah,
with some level of safety. You don't
yeah.
want complete chaos.
No.
It can be strategic, but the life changing moment that kind of brought me to this day really was about 3 months later. By chance, I had a Sophie Scott, who's the neurologist at UCL, but also Carolyn McGetton.
Yeah, this
She
is my next question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got in
The
touch and she said, "We've seen your very specific set of skills. Like, we
yeah.
think that you can control your voice like way above the human average. We've got a series of neurological voice studies.
Yeah,
We want to
okay.
put you in an MRI
Yes.
because we think that we can guide you and ask you to do certain things that we can't ask the average human being when it comes to controlling
Yeah,
voice."
sick.
It was
This is
it,
definitely a moment of fate, right?
oh
I mean,
yeah, it gave me exactly what I was curious about. It's not that that one project and that one
and that's the
thing.
kind of experience you can never ask for. You can't email people cold and be like, "Can we do this?" People will be like, "No." You need someone to hit you up and be like, "We're actually, someone at UCL. We're doing this." So yeah. So what happened?
So I just loved the experience because it allowed me to kind of understand my own voice in ways that I could never do with my obsession and even talking to other musicians and artists.
But what do they get you to do during the brain scan? Like,
There was two main studies. One was about expert behavior, which is basically like flow state.
mm.
So they were comparing my speech and beatboxing to a control group of I don't want to say average human beings. That's not what when I say average, it's like mean average in terms of vocal
You mean lesser
dexterity.
than?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely not. A beatbox authoritarian here. No, it's just from a scientific viewpoint in
Yeah, of
terms of
course.
vocal dexterity.
Yes, yeah, of course,
Um,
yeah.
and the it was basically comparing what would happen when you're a non-expert in something
Mm.
versus someone that is by definition like displays flow state, displays like hyper expertise in something. When you compare all those things, you get some kind of trajectory on what the differences are in the brain between like expert behavior in a neurological sense, it's not the exact right way to say it, but it basically is that flow state. So,
Practice,
so
yeah.
when I'm talking to you now, the way you're talking to me,
Mm.
that's an expert behavior because you're not having to really premeditate.
No,
This is
exactly.
you're freestyling
Yeah,
effectively.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's an example of expert behavior. But what does it actually look like in the brain? What are other
Mm.
ways of examining that? So that was one. The other thing was about expert listening, and some other just really interesting ideas about just regions of the voice and isolating and what is that actually controlled by. Um, but I was just so inspired and learning new things. But the really important part is I got access to a whole new piece of technology, and
Mm.
I was like, that's really interesting. So if I do this more, not only do I get access to new ideas, meet really people that just come from other worlds, but I might have other ways of creating from voice or learning about voice.
Yeah.
And that basically became the seed which defined really my main whole other career over the last like 8 years or so. I think it might be longer now. I always say 8 years. Um, where I was really interested in how can I use my voice, my abilities, or just the idea of voice to play with, experiment with research and technology to create works, whether those are new forms of performance, whether it's going to be new ways of collaborating with other human beings, other ways of visualizing like the human voice.
Yeah.
And so you kind of leave my expectation of music behind and being a musician. And then there's just this open realm between all the senses, like
Yeah.
vision, sound, ideas. But my connecting force was my voice, and that was really that story in UCL was the birth of this whole new arc, which was the best thing I could have ever done,
Yeah.
basically.
How did your how did you get how was the idea to kind of create a physical piece of art based on the human voice? How did that come about?
So I think
And
you're
if people don't know what I'm talking about, please
yes.
let them know.
So what a journey this conversation is. But so, as I mentioned, sort of leaving behind just being on stage and performing,
Mm,
um, I'd always had a dream of visualizing the voice. Like, can I make things like I saw on that Venetian snares track? Can I
yeah,
compare the vision to the sound?
yeah.
Um, and yeah, for the 10 years leading up today, I started to really experiment with doing that. Like, it started with like physical vibration, something called cymatics. If I put my voice through a metal plate, I would see patterns in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And that I just thought was so interesting that voice can have shape. Like,
Yeah,
voice can have color. Like, there's
yeah.
ways of translating that. And now one of my largest projects is a project called Voice Gems, which is a 200,000 particle generative system, which I collaborated with Trong Bao, where I could take your voice or any voice on earth, and based on the features in that voice, it will produce a high resolution digital gemstone
Mm,
that is unique in color and form. And we basically have been collecting voices from all over Earth. We have over 300 now.
mm.
From endangered species, dying languages. We have people like Jane Goodall and Ai Weiwei
Wow,
that have
yeah, yeah.
contributed, and it's just this growing archive that I'm going to do till the day that I die.
Yeah,
Um,
amazing.
mm.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, like that, and each one is completely unique to the sound that you use or voice you use, I guess.
yeah. Same voice twice, same recording twice, same voice gem. It's not
Yeah,
like a randomized system.
yeah.
But the thing that I want to keep hitting home is this sort of center concept of voice, but the playfulness of experimenting. And I love when you could take some of the sensibilities and the ideas that you might use to write a song, but
Mm.
then you might apply that to a painting
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
another medium. And that's really what happened with voice gems, where everyone has voice notes on their phone.
yeah.
I've lost people in my life, and I've got voice notes from them, and that exists on a phone or like a laptop, which is a very
Mm-hmm.
cold device.
Mm.
But what's happened with voice gems is we've received so many requests from people that have lost loved ones, and they want to represent that in a new way.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
So it becomes a digital ritual.
Yeah.
And this is when the really interesting stuff starts to happen, is when my job is to really find, yes, there's technology and digital and these things that you might think are cold, but there are ways of creating new ritual. There are ways of creating things that people emotionally can heal from. It can allow someone to remember, to respect, say I love you in a new way. So when you start crossing all the senses, like
Mm.
what I've seen is there is new possibility in art.
Yeah.
Like this idea that everything's been done, especially when you apply technology, it hasn't. And Voice Gems is this offering to the world where people get in touch for all kinds of reasons. People that have lost their voices from laryngectomies,
Mm.
people that obviously have lost loved ones. And not only are we making digital pieces, but now we started to make physical pieces that
Mm.
people can wear, hold, and actually like keep a voice. And you would never think of that with a voice.
Yeah.
So
No, of course. Um, and how does your understanding of the science and technology retrospectively kind of affect your if you do you still perform these days for the beatboxer?
yeah, I do. There are moments. It's much more like the right time and place,
Yeah.
and if it makes sense to like my wider practice, um then yeah, I am still on stage, especially because I talk. One of the main things I do is lecture, so I'm
Yeah.
always touring and traveling and speaking about the studios like work, and I
Mm.
often do demo and showcase, and
Does it
especially
feed back the kind of the wider horizon you have with it? It feeds back into that.
yeah, if you like narrative and the way you communicate your ideas
Mm.
is like the most powerful, most important thing that you can ever learn as a creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people don't like to talk about what they do, they like to do it, which
Yeah.
I totally that is the
Some
preference.
artists aren't good at talking about what they do because they have that's why they're artists, right?
Yeah,
That's their output.
but if you're moving between senses and you're trying to, because the narrative is do one thing, do it really well, the
Mm.
end. But I think the world is
Yeah.
changing. And if you're going to adapt, this is just my opinion, if you're going to
I
adapt
think
with the
I'd
way the world's
agree. Yeah.
changing, how you talk about things. So the if I perform, it's when it makes sense in the overarching narrative. And especially with the way that I've used artificial intelligence for a long time now, I I battle effectively and train with a synthetic version of my voice. It's like a chess like opponent. So
Okay.
we've shown that live on stage many times now.
So when did you start? You said when did you start using AI? Sorry, 10 years ago.
Yeah. So the
What
first
in what
experiments.
form did it show up?
So um, basically, again, like disclaimer, I am just some council estate kid from like Walthamstow. Um, After I did those experiments and started to do more and more pieces and put myself out there, for some absolutely insane reason, Harvard University got in touch through a residency program.
Okay.
So I ended up. I originally went there just for 1 month, but based on how that went, I actually went back like many times over 3 years.
Yeah.
And during my time there with the music and the phonetics department, as an artist, like
Yeah.
it's very much to experiment and do the things that I do.
Mm.
One of my favorite human beings on earth, which is a guy called CJ Carr, who is just an absurd computational scientist and artist.
Right.
And he was like, I'm a massive, he's a friend of mine, but he's like, I'm a massive fan of what you can do. I've just started doing these voice based AI experiments. Um, could we create
In
a
Harvard. Yeah.
synthetic version of your voice? And I was excited by that, not scared.
Okay, because a lot of people would be like, "Ooh, that's your voice is completely yours," you know.
Hmm.
So you're excited by that. What were you excited about?
Good. Yeah, that's what I wanted you to ask. So the difference between me and other people, and I think this is really important, is a few things. So like I games like chess, right? So I had like a county level like chess
I'm glad you've talked about
experience.
chess because I was gonna ask you about that, but here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. So I played county level chess. There was the chess and the music were like the two sort of main things.
Mm.
And it's a really established idea that like engines are incredible for human potential, right? Human beings are better at playing chess because of the way to reference like machines. Again, like my dad knew that my opponents, my nemesis when I was like 13, 14 at chess tournaments, the guys that I really wanted to beat,
Yeah.
they had coaches, they were like in a slightly different position to me. So he bought me this little Kasparov chess computer,
Nice.
and that never got tired of playing with me.
Yeah.
It really made me improve.
Did
So
your dad play chess with you a lot?
yeah, I mean, I've got a tattoo on my arm of a knight piece because my father passed away a few years ago, and
Did he in fact get you into chess? Sorry.
yes, he kind of
Okay.
got me into everything. To be
Okay.
honest,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you met him, you'll be like, oh, like I can see. I
Y-
basically took his whole vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah, chess. That was a huge sort of part of our relationship. And when CJ shared with me some of the first sort of generative parts, so I made a data set of my voice, like basically just recordings, a big set of recordings of my voice,
Yeah.
and through a very bespoke process, like there was no stealing, it was fully consensual,
Mm.
it was really fascinating. And the story I always tell,
And this is also way ahead of the conversation of
oh,
AI stealing things. You know.
oh, it's massively, again, because I was exploring these things, a flag came up and this was one of those things. But because of my background in chess, I was open to it. And when I first heard the results, these strange, like complex, like 200 BPM beatbox patterns, things that weren't
Yeah.
quite quantized, and oh, I've never done that before, but that's interesting. Like, oh, that's fascinating, and like hit.
Was it making mistakes that made that? I'm interested to know. Was the AI making mistakes that made you think, actually, let me try that,
Yeah, I mean, at that time,
just like a human might,
it wasn't
you
really
know?
music even. Like it
Yeah.
used a method called sample RNN, which was basically create these really organic, like bizarre, like non on grid patterns, almost like talking.
Yeah.
But it was just wild to hear these new ideas,
Yeah.
and I was massively inspired by it. I had all this positive energy, and I went back and I showed my peers and my friends, and like every single person absolutely hated it.
Ooh.
Understandably,
Yeah.
because like this is creepy, this is strange. Why would you do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
the things that people say today, but that just didn't it motivate me more because I was inspired by it.
Yeah.
Like at that time, knowing that it was ethical, consensual, and a great collaboration between me and my friend, um, I kept going, and to this day, like developing ethical practice for like
Mm.
non um yeah, just sorry, like full consensual like process. I just think it's completely wild the difference between that process and something like ChatGPT, which is a huge global, like who knows the amount of data and where it's come from that's generated that.
Yeah.
That's a very different practice to two individual artists
Yeah,
doing
totally.
things themselves. And there's other ways of doing that to this day that I think it's important for people to learn about, because whether we like it or not, and my preference maybe would be that the technology never existed,
Okay,
right?
that's
I
interesting.
think human beings being human beings is the most beautiful thing like on the planet.
Yeah.
But I think as an artist, our creatives, our job isn't just to make art; is to share and help us make sense of this world.
Yes.
And artificial intelligence is a huge disruptive and difficult thing, and it's not so binary of good and bad. Like, how can we think more about it? So that's that.
It's a lot more nuanced, isn't it? Yeah, than black and white, good or bad. Yeah, for sure.
I believe so. I believe
Yeah.
so. So
No,
that
I'd agree
story,
with that. I'd agree with that.
yeah.
And and yeah, and art is really kind of to maybe simplify it is how we learn about ourselves and the world around us, and then how we communicate that, right?
Well, my one of my favorite quotes is, "Art should heal the maker before it entertains the stranger."
Totally. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
because it's like we forget, we become addicted to externalizing our validation,
Mm,
but actually these things can be for ourselves, and that can be using technology or writing a poem. Like
yes.
mediums in themselves are not uh they're not biased. They are actually these completely open vessels that
Mm,
can it's what we channel through it and the context and the way that we're leveraging it. Mediums are there to serve the artist, and I think artists can do more than just self-indulge. Um, and sometimes by going inward, you can heal a lot of people. So it's not so much about like, oh, just thinking of yourself is definitely bad. It's
mm,
just like, what are you really inspired by? Is it external validation, or is it a combination of something that's really authentic to you and how it's showing up in the world? And I think technology can have a spiritual, wholesome quality to it,
mm.
which is a controversial opinion.
What do you think? What do you think machines don't do yet?
So
You know?
the main advantage that human beings have is something called contextual intelligence.
Yes.
And all that really means is like, so if there was a voice-based agent in this conversation, there is a chance like now that it could partake in this, and it could maybe know more than me about specific things, and it can be super smart and
It can
technical.
fact check pretty quickly. Let's face
That's
it.
one of the benefits, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
one of the benefits. But what happens? We then get up and we go outside, and then we go and do something else.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Contextual intelligence is humans' amazing ability to actually be integrated into the world.
Mm,
And the way that we can move between and survive and collaborate and all those things as autonomous agent beings is a miracle.
mm,
And those systems so far can't are desperately looking for context,
mm.
but it's much more sort of laser focused. Outside of that, it's possible that those machines are going to be able to do everything that you could possibly imagine eventually.
Yeah,
So
there's no limit.
doesn't mean we
Yeah.
should,
No.
but the brutal truth is like uh, I'm trying not to go into full like esoteric philosophical tech mode, because like
But
that's
surely,
yeah.
like, quantum AI means once I mean, I don't know, we're probably there already. I just don't know about it. But once we enter the realm of quantum AI and like th- uh, problems that take 2 billion years to solve are being solved in 5 minutes,
Cancer,
surely.
city planning, traffic, all those things. Whether we're ready for that,
Mm,
um, uh, I mean, I think there is an obvious answer to that. That like like being human is being limited. Limitation is such an important
it's the
part.
beautiful. It's kind of where the beauty lies, right?
Absolutely,
Mm,
and you mentioned sort of markets, and you mentioned the way that we might exist in society. It very much is leveraged towards growth, 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 growth. But as
yeah.
individuals, like you do have choices, you do have some agency. Like whilst these massive tech institutions and companies are pushing forward, you can guide all that by getting involved and actually thinking, how can I leverage this technology um, to be beneficial to the people around me, to myself? What is my ethical stance on it?
Mm.
Um, if I can convince anyone that's listening that the technology itself is not inherently biased, it has the potential to be constructed in different ways. I gave those two examples before between a bespoke, what is basically like a similar creative process to using a modular synth to make techno,
Yep.
not the same medium, versus like unconsensually stealing a bunch of samples and
Yeah.
and making whatever you want. Like those are very different things. So are you going to guide it? Are you going to understand the thing that you want to reject? Like I think
Yeah.
there's a responsibility which ideally we wouldn't have to do, but we have to lean in. And I think that advantage that right now that we have is the ability that we're involved in so many parts of life that these systems are not, so we have a chance to guide it.
Okay. Well, moving on from AI, just a one-word answer. AI, collaborator, mirror, or opponent?
Opponent.
Okay, right. Okay. Thank you for that. That's because of your chess background.
Yeah, that's my it's one of the main things I very much love is actually how a technology can push me further.
Yeah.
That's without going into even more of that stuff. Like that's
No.
I
Cool.
love that,
Yeah.
and I use that word love. I love that I can
It's
be
a healthy
challenged
thing, exactly. Yeah. The opponent
safely.
means healthy.
Yeah, in a
Yeah.
safe way
Not in
of
a kind of
ownership.
Terminator way. Like, you know,
I mean, we'll see what happens.
we'll
But
see
for
what
now,
happens. Yeah.
I think the thing that I really care about is like the future of education. Effectively, I
Yes.
think that like I'm an example, whether you believe me or not, of someone that has taken a very non-traditional path, but has managed to construct projects in ways that have, yeah, that have been integrated into society, into institution, and into the arts. And I think what I've done is nothing. The strategy that I've done is nothing special. Like my skills and the things I've developed have given me that advantage. But I do think it's something that everyone can think about is the fact that the world is changing and maybe the way that we might learn
Mm.
or develop our practice. Um, I think it's okay to try to be quite good at many things.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's like a non-linear way of working. And just something called
That's how I'd encourage my son to exist in the world, Just try everything,
Mm.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, I think that's really and doing that with a real quiet belief in people that want to try that.
Mm.
I think what I felt a lot because any single industry that I ended in, I ended up with this feeling of like there's more out there or something's not quite right. But all of the mentors that I had at that time or managers were trying to get me to do one thing, which I completely understand.
I can relate to that with music stars for sure. Yeah, around the same time, it was like, oh, we like that one thing you did. Can you do that again? And I was always like, no, that's not what my creative practice is about. Like, yeah, so I can relate to that.
Exactly. So if you don't want to limit like the medium, like why limit the context? So taking one of your shows and putting it in a gallery context, maybe it's not stereo speakers, maybe there's 8 speakers that are around.
Yeah.
Are people standing up? Why not have them lying down?
Mm.
Are they blindfolded? Like
Mm.
is it pitch black? Are there like lights like moving with it? And I think the mediums themselves.
Your work is very experience based, heavily, isn't it? Really.
Oh,
Like,
that's
the kind of
my life
the
started
foundation
making
of it.
sense when I started realizing that all of all of the mediums are pieces in an overarching like obsession, which is to create experiences.
Mm.
And I want people to experience ideas. I want to experience amazing people
Mm.
and small changes like if you're being on stage a lot, say you're a singer-songwriter, have the lighting engineer make sure that the light in the room completely transforms just for your
Yeah,
piece.
totally.
If it's been blue,
Totally.
like make it go.
That's really good advice, people. Listen to that one.
Yeah, make it go red
Yeah.
and great. Like those little sensorial choices, what it does is, in a world that we're more and more distracted, it gives a chance for people's like focus. And I use the word focus, not attention,
Yes.
because like attention can be just like, oh, you got my attention, and like the consistent focus where people are immersed, and immersion's another word. If you start thinking experientially, if you start thinking about immersion and the art of immersion in all of its facets, you have to start thinking across all the senses. Your practice can be your practice. You can have your single thing that you're very, very good at, but these set of satellite ideas, softwares, like people, like your team, your collaborators, people that are in regions, knowing your boundary. Okay, I can't go that far. Like, I am not an academic. I work with academics all the time.
Yeah.
But I know how to communicate with academics, and I know how to make their ideas expressed. Like, but there's a boundary. I'm going to delegate. I'm going to collaborate. So it takes a comfortable village of senses and people, and that's okay. It's okay to have ambition and want to explore lots of things. It's just that educating yourself on a strategy and a structure for that, and thinking outside of your market or your genre, and thinking about immersion, which is genreless, and experiential, which is you could say isn't to one specific market. There's so many more doors that open for you.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I really want to like change in, I think, the way that people are sometimes pushed in their early career, is that vision is okay. Like, no, people's visions and your vision of your work can be big, and it can be varied, and your practices can be varied.
So what can we expect from you moving forward in the future with education, I guess? Like,
so I'm really interested in how basically curriculums, whether they're creative or something else, can become experiential. And I think that as I get into my slightly older years, and hopefully for a good while, I think I'm already working with a lot of like museums and galleries in terms of how an exhibition, or some of our exhibitions, always have some purpose beyond just the sort of sensorial. But I just do think these technologies, with all of, especially with artificial intelligence, one thing that is amazing, in my opinion, is school failed me because the lack of bespoke education.
Yeah.
Like, teachers knew that I might have needed a little bit of a different structure. Like, some teachers let me draw because I actually paid more attention.
Yeah.
Some people let students stim. With a human teacher, when you're learning, when you're studying, I think there's a way to turn a curriculum into a cluster of meditations, the ability to turn that into a gamified experience. And I think that being done in a tasteful, like elegant way is such a huge new opportunity. So like myself, the team, the studio, outside of like outside of the art world stuff that I love, I have a mission to just think about what are ways to support neurodivergent people that might think differently, with the technology that can kind of help them land ideas in a very bespoke way.
Yeah.
So there's a few different methods for how we're exploring that.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds great. I look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you so much for coming in today, Harry. What can we cheers to today? What cause or subject or person?
I think it's I'd like to cheers to authenticity and non-linear creativity.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks for tuning in to Toast and Jams. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to hear the guest song choice, click the link in the description. See you next time.